Okay, so good morning or hello, depending upon where you are. It's Judy Cohen. This is Wake Up Call 530. So today, let's explore one of the final sets of verses of chapter one, which is called Choices of the Dhammapada. So far, looking at the Dhammapada, we've heard with our thoughts we make the world, only love dispels hate. All of us will die. Knowing this, how can we quarrel? Temptation cannot touch the person who is awake, strong, and humble. The worthiest endeavor in life, maybe also in the law, is the endeavor to purify the mind. To do this, we have to see not only the big truths of suffering and impermanence and interconnection, but also the way the defilements visit us, or in some cases, take up residence. For the next few verses, Gil Fronsdale's translation makes the most sense to me. It says, one who does evil grieves in this life, grieves in the next, grieves in both worlds. Seeing one's own defiled acts brings grief and affliction. One who makes merit rejoices in this life, rejoices in the next, rejoices in both. Seeing one's own pure acts brings joy and delight. And then it's a bit of a refrain. One who does evil is tormented in this life. So the first verse is one who does evil grieves in this life. And then the third is one who does evil is tormented in this life, in the next, in both worlds. Here one is tormented knowing I have done evil. Reborn in realms of woe, one is tormented all the more. And then one who makes merit is delighted. So the second verse is rejoices in this life, and then the fourth is delighted in this life, delighted in the next, delighted in both. Here one is delighted knowing I have made merit, reborn in realms of bliss, one delights all the more. Okay, so let's start with Gil's This Life, Next Life translation, because I don't think reincarnation has to be part of understanding these verses. And I know Gil translates them that way, but he talks about this. And I've also heard many other teachers talk about this as well. And so maybe reincarnation is part of your belief system. Great. You can read the lines literally. But in case it's not, the invitation is to think about this life as this moment and the next life as the next moment. So a moment is born, it passes away, and another moment is born. The actions we take in each moment fade away, but in the next, they leave their imprint. They leave their imprint. Dara Williams says, if the previous moment was clear and clean, we see the results in the next moment. Billions of choices moment by moment. So I just mentioned that because I don't want to have the this life, next life language become an impediment to exploring the verses. So just invite us to think about it as this moment, next moment. From that perspective, I think the verses seem relatively straightforward, especially with Dara's reminder. And, they say essentially, if we do evil, we grieve and are tormented. And if we make merit, we rejoice and are delighted. And evil isn't some nefarious thing, although it could be. But it also is as simple as speaking or acting with greed, hatred, or delusion. And merit doesn't have to be something grand or laudable. It can just be speaking and acting with kindness and generosity and wisdom. So a few examples, if I gossip about someone or I say something unkind, I'm speaking with hate. And no blame. I'm human after all, but I'm still fully responsible, right? So the process is look, see, care, make amends, and do better next time. If I take something that's not freely offered, or more than my share, or more than I need, also human, also greed. So again, I need to look, see, care, and make reparations. Bring generosity into the equation. If I forget that we belong to one another or that suffering is part of the human condition, again, I'm human, but there's delusion. And I need to take a moment to remember we're all in this together. Everything I say and do matters. And none of us gets out of this messy thing called life alive. Um, and so these verses are saying it's not only that I need to look and see and care and repair, it's also that, like Dara says, or like she illuminates, there are consequences. And what I find really interesting is that the verses don't point at the consequences to others, which there are, right? When I put hatred out into the world, there's just more hate in the world, which is about the last thing we need. And when I act with greed, I'm causing suffering in a lot of ways. But the verses aren't focused on this, they're pointing at the consequences to ourselves. So again, one who does evil grieves in this life, in the next, in both. One who does evil is tormented in this life, the next, and both. So I was thinking about these verses yesterday, and then their companion verses, which, without reciting them again, basically remind us that when we speak and act with kindness, generosity, wisdom, we end up rejoicing in this life and in the next, and in both, or in this moment and the next. That the moment is clear and clean, right? So I was thinking about that. I was on a walk. I'm up at Tahoe. I was out by the lake. Um, and then I clicked into the Daily, the New York Times podcast, where they take one issue each day and go deeper. And I listened to an analysis of the billionaire's tax, which is going on the California ballot. Uh, and I really recommend that particular podcast episode because the tax might not be what you think. It's not what I thought. Um, and it occurred to me that, and maybe this is obvious to everybody else and always has been, but it occurred to me that these verses are highlighting the personal consequences of choosing evil or the defilements versus merit or kindness and generosity, um, because they're trying to incentivize us, you know, come at us as humans who need incentives. Um, and that's true that uh, so if the billionaires and a whole lot of other humans, let's say they read the Dhammapada, we wouldn't need a billionaire's tax. We wouldn't need anything like it because not because suddenly everybody would be transformed, but because everybody would be incentivized to be generous and kind and wise, right? Because they would experience the happiness in the moment and they would experience it in the next moment and they would know, oh, this feels good. This is an easy way to feel good. So it was this very funny moment. I had this impulse to somehow let everybody know, let all these billionaires know, write an op-ed or something and tell them the good news, right? Um, like, hey, billionaires, hey, everybody, taking away services and care and love from the world and adding hatred and greed. There's this big incentive to turn things around. You'll be so happy if you do that. And your happiness will last in the next moment, or it'll last in the next life. It'll last for a long, long time. So, what about that? Anyway, I didn't write it, or I didn't write it yet. But it does occur to me that the Dhammapada in particular is written in this very incentivizing way, where it's here's the bad news, but if you follow the good news, you're going to be a lot happier.